Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Nichole, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Thank you so very much. And thank you for having me, truly.
Yes, absolutely. So before we get into your good work, I want to know this. 5 years ago, the biggest thing that affected not only all of us neurotypicals, but the autism spectrum community was going through COVID. Just
Yep.
absolutely a different deal. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed your approach or the way that you view life in 2025?
Honestly, we thrived through COVID, and you're welcome to ask this question during the interview itself. But because we're an
Well,
essential healthcare service, we were able to stay open. We even were able to contract with a bunch of schools for their special needs department because the kids at home were not successful.
yeah.
So we thrived during COVID, but it was scary because we didn't know how things would end up. But we did really well by the kids, and we stayed open and made it as safe as we possibly could.
Yeah.
We kept going.
Well, we're kind of in it. If are you okay with keeping going here? That was kind of my
Yeah,
first question. Is that cool? Okay,
yeah,
and and
absolutely.
and we can peel back the layers of that. I know in my experience, and I mentioned this before we got on, and I've talked about it before. My son Miles, he's 20, he's on the spectrum, and I remember when that happened. He was in middle school. We just moved to a new community, and the big key was to get out and move around. Like he loved baseball and
Yep.
loved school. So it was all about maneuvering and if there was any group of kids that needed school and socialization more than anything else, it was the spectrum kids.
Yes.
So
Yes.
um so let's get a handle on exactly what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds. It's career day, and one of the kids wants to know what you do for a living. How do you answer them?
Well, me in particular, I just do administrative work. Most of my day to day is helping aspiring entrepreneurs open their own ABA center and teaching them how to run the business side. But for the clinics, the ABA therapy itself, ABA therapy is a nonverbal way of learning or nonverbal way of teaching, I should say.
Yep.
And we're going to teach these kids social skills. We're going to teach them communication skills. And of course, we're going to help teach them the calming strategies or self regulating strategies that they need to reduce problem behaviors such as tantrums, and hope that in hopes that they gain more functionality in today's world because the world's not going to change for you. So
Yeah.
we have to help you function enough to gain an independent adult life.
It's interesting. I have experience in this, and when Miles was really young, we did a lot of ABA therapy, and
Mhm.
it was absolutely instrumental in a lot of ways of him kind of grasping a level of socialization and how to navigate things. So I can absolutely vouch for it. So my question to you is this: how long have you been opening these facilities? How long have you been in this world?
The very first center opened in 2015. So
Wow.
1 decade as of 2025. It's been a crazy journey. But yeah, 10 years, and it's morphed so much from then until now. I mean, when your child, and you said he's in his 20s, right? So when
Yeah.
your child was diagnosed, you were like, top of the line getting ABA therapy because it
Yeah.
was not very well known back then. It wasn't hardly paid by insurance back then. And nowadays it's a lot easier. There's a lot more access to care. There's a lot more knowledge. There's not more acceptance.
Yep.
So I think it's a heck of a lot easier now than it used to be. But of course, we still have a long way to go because the access to care is not there because there are not enough clinics. More and more kids get diagnosed every year,
Yep.
exponentially, really 200 times more since 10 years ago.
Yep.
And the number of clinics opening up to help these kids cannot keep up.
Yep.
We can't keep pace. And so that was the whole idea behind franchising my business is to open them faster than a single person could on their own.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can help more kids than ever before.
I know in the beginning it was First Steps that was instrumental because they came in the home and did speech, occupation, and there was some levels of ABA that were going on.
Mm.
Is that a part of what could possibly be a band-aid before a facility opens up?
Something is always better than nothing.
Yeah.
And so if you can get some in-home help, whether it's speech or OT, even if it's not ABA, absolutely do it. But ABA is the gold standard, of course. And honestly, there are a lot of in-home only ABA therapy companies out there. But I caution against that. Yes, for a parent, it's more comfortable for
Yeah.
your kid to be at home all safe and cozy. But the skills that they need to acquire, the social skills that they need, the communication skills that they need to be practiced and practiced over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
This is not something that you can do with brother and sister. Nobody likes to hang out with their brother. This is something that the kids need the routine of being away from mom and dad, learning in a school like
Yeah.
environment. They need to interact with other children their age, their peers. And so that clinic setting is more expensive and has a hell of a lot more overhead for companies, which is why a lot of companies prefer to do in-home services, but it is the ideal environment to teach those skills for the kids.
That's what I was getting at. When Miles was born in '04, we were probably doing ABA therapy by the time he was like 4 or 5 and oh 09, 10. I remember it was kind of the Wild West at that point because the
Definitely.
numbers for spectrum at that point were somewhere in the 1 in 1,000, 1 in 500, and now we're down to 1 in 15.
30, 31.
Okay, there you
Well,
go.
15 in certain states, but nationally,
Yeah.
1 in 31.
So it's absolutely exploded. So
Yeah.
so let me get into your background a little bit. Take me back to that 12-year-old question. What did you want to be at 12? When you were growing up, what was your dream?
I knew I wanted to help people. I knew I wanted something in the medical field, but I never wanted to be a doctor
Yeah.
because you see their lifestyle and their work-life balance. And to me, it's just not fantastic. So I actually went to Barnes and Noble and found this book, and it was called something like 2000 medical jobs that you didn't know existed. And I flipped through the book and I looked through what the highest pay for the lowest amount of school was. And I found three things and I landed on nuclear medicine. And I thought it was so cool. Nuclear medicine. It sounds so interesting. So that was what my degree was in. And that's where I met my first husband when we were working together at an outpatient clinic doing nuclear stress tests together. And when we got married, I became stepmom to a 5-year-old girl with autism.
Okay, so that's your background. Take me back to your childhood. Where were you born and raised? What were these foundational elements of wanting to get into science in the medical field that has lent you to being a good stepmom and making this your mission in life?
It was not planned, and I feel like destiny plucked me out of the nothingness. I was born in this little itty bitty town in Louisiana. Um, Neither of my parents were educated. My father never finished high school. My mom dropped out of college when she got pregnant with me, like first semester. So there was no education in their background. And everyone there seemed so content to stay in that little small town. I wanted out. I wanted the big city. I felt like I didn't belong there. Always, even as a child. I'm like, who wants to be here? I want a better car than this. I want a better house than this. I want more restaurants than three options in this like two stoplight place. So I literally picked my field, my occupation, the career that I wanted based on how easy could it be for me to get a job somewhere else. Both of my parents were also entrepreneurs. They started their own business. So I was never scared. That fear of the unknown never scared me because I watched them build companies out of nothing. And I think that contributed a lot to, finding this problem with my stepdaughter can't have access to care to like, I'm just going to do it myself.
Yeah.
And that kind of, one thing led to another.
And it's interesting because if you're not in this world, you don't know a lot about much of how this world works. And I think there's a lot of people that do kind of take the reins and have an entrepreneurial mindset. I remember at one point I wanted to have some art classes at a local library. I do visual arts on the side, and I really tried to do it, and I had to go through so many hoops to get to that point where it was even going to be admissible. And I find that interesting about this, like you said up front. I think if anybody out there needs to know one thing about the spectrum and helping kids with special needs, is there's a sore lack of resources and things that need to be done to help these kids.
So much so. And it's sad for the kids, but it is a huge business opportunity because there is such a gap. And people who are not directly affected by autism don't realize how prominent autism actually is. I mean, 1 in 31 kids, if you look at your child that's in second grade, there's 30 kids in their class. There's how many classes in that school? And statistically, one kid out of every class is going to be diagnosed with autism before they turn 8. And so it's a huge, it's nearly 3% of the population. and they're all underserved
Yep.
by half.
Yep.
And so it's an incredible business opportunity to fill that gap. It's nothing that's going to be met anytime soon. There's no competition to speak of. There's no medicine, there's no cure, there's no procedure or quick fix that's going to make autism go away. So we have to teach them in a way that they're able to learn.
I almost see more now, there's this analogy of AI, of there being this fear, yet I think there's another part of it where you harness it. And I find the spectrum to be that way. Because when I think about Miles, there's so many magical, wonderful things that he has at his benefit of filtering out a lot of the noise the world has. And they do, a lot of these kids have savant capabilities that they don't people don't know that can be harnessed.
Yes.
Yeah, there is the side of it where there's all kinds of things that go into it, all kinds of issues, learning disabilities, blending into the world, increase in bullying, all of those things that go along with it. But I think the other side of it, like AI, is there's a level of it that can be harnessed, that can be used because there's a brilliance. There's these Easter eggs of gems that are built within these kids.
Absolutely. One of the core symptoms of autism is restrictive or repetitive interests. And so if you can harness that interest where, a kid is obsessed with dinosaurs and all they care about is dinosaurs, they have more knowledge about dinosaurs than anybody else in the world because that is how their brain just absorbs this stuff. They would be great as a personnel who is working in the field of any kind of paleontology or
Yep.
working in a museum or whatever it is. But in order to get that job, in order to enter the workforce and use their gift, their superpower, I like to call it, you have to have those basic functional skills to be able to talk to a boss, to be
Yep.
able to go to a job interview and answer their questions properly. If you have a customer facing job, you need to know how to have conversation skills. And ABA therapy truly is the best thing to
Yep.
teach them those foundational skills that they need
Absolutely.
to go out into the world.
Yeah, and I couldn't shout that further from the mountaintops. I remember in the beginning, ABA was really kind of um, developing, but
Yeah.
everything that everybody had recommended really came true and did a lot of good. Coincided really well with what the educational system was trying to do. Because I think that's the thing about it. ABA is great, but also there's all these other therapies that these kids need. And I always felt like ABA kind of tied all of it up. If they're working on occupational, they're working on physical, they're working on speech, all of those things are going to feed in to that more robust level of human interaction that these kids ultimately will need to put all of those to the test.
One of the great things about starting your own company as a from a parent's perspective is that I knew my child needed all these things. And it is hell as a parent driving to speech over here and occupational over here. I don't know if you know this, Joe, but Houston is 1 hour away from Houston. So if you're driving
Yeah.
anywhere in
Uh-huh.
this city,
Yep.
it takes your whole life over.
Yep.
And so when I founded Success on the Spectrum, I wanted all the therapies in one place. So
Yep.
we do ABA, speech, OT, all the things, social group skills, all in one place to make it convenient for parents, but also so that all of these different therapists can collaborate with each other. Because if OT is teaching a child to bite into an apple and speech is teaching them to say the word apple, everybody needs to be presenting this information in the
Yep.
same way so we don't confuse them.
A unified front. I actually interviewed a politician in Illinois last week that talked about an adult kind of campus where they had adults kind of living part-time, full-time with all
Love
these
it.
services. You know what I'm saying? That to me, because I'm thinking about Miles where he's at now, and we all have an expiration date. I really want there to be a level of comfort and a
Yeah.
level of them being able to be taken, especially with the numbers going up. I mean, this is a much bigger thing than I
Yeah.
think most people realize.
I agree. As a parent, you always worry about who's going to take care of my kid when I'm gone. You don't want to burden siblings with a lifelong disabled sibling. You don't want to, you want them to live their lives too. And it's terrifying. And my next 10-year plan will be something to help adults on the spectrum to transition into the workforce and gain enough independence where somebody just can check in on them. They may not all be completely independent, but if I can get them out of a nursing home, if I can get them out of assisted living and get them into a place where they're cared for and they can live as independently as possible, like the least restrictive for their abilities, that is, hashtag life goals. That's what I want for them. That's
Yeah,
what the world needs in order
absolutely.
to support this growing population of adults who will need support.
I did interview an author a few weeks ago that got diagnosed in his early 20s. And you hear that more and more often. And I find that interesting because I don't know that science had the resources to be able to localize and hone in. Because, when growing up, I was a kid of the 80s, you just didn't see sped rooms. You saw minor examples of it, but now it's more, there's just a broader umbrella of diagnosing and getting that taken care of.
I mean, when I think back to when I was in elementary school, there was always a kid that was a little weird, that would laugh at jokes nobody else did, that would kind of talk to themselves, that would run to classes instead of walking, just like little hints. Now we know, hey, that kid has autism.
Yeah.
But back then, there was no name for it. And I think now, with additional awareness, more access to care, and a newer generation of doctors that learned about autism in school, where the older generation didn't have that available to them when they went to med school. I think a lot of that has contributed to recognizing autism better, honing in on the actual definition of autism itself, what the symptoms technically are, because there's no blood test, there's no
Yep.
scan you can do. It's all about behavior. And so now that we recognize these things as a spectrum, the savants and the people who are high functioning, quote unquote, are the same exact disease process, the same
Yep.
exact disorder, the same exact brain quote unquote malfunctions or differences. And it's recognized better, it's diagnosed better, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people hate the label. They don't want to be diagnosed because they're scared of the label, but the label is what opens that door for you to get help. It opens that door for the therapies. It opens the door for the support from the school system, from the workforce, everything. And it shouldn't be a shameful thing. It should be
Yeah.
a prideful thing.
Absolutely. So, who would you consider like your hero in the autism spectrum community, like a Temple Grandin? Who have you admired?
Temple Grandin is a fantastic example of an adult who was diagnosed as severe as a child that overcame and found a job and is independent living. But even with her, she does need support.
Yeah.
Whatever, the conversational skills, she can answer a question, but it's kind of repeated and taught. And if you ask her a question she's not aware of, she kind of stumbles on that. So she'll always need support throughout her life. So I think it's a great example. She's a great example for parents to continue to push their kids, because so many people are afraid to push their kids out of their comfort zone that they never leave it and they never accomplish anything. They don't want to make them do the difficult thing because of the tantrums, or they don't want to put the work in or deal with the kid that's fighting them when you're teaching them something new. Temple Grandin is great for saying, hey, parents, you should continue to push them because look what I accomplished because of it. And you'll never cure your kid. You'll always be autistic. Temple Grandin, obviously, still very autistic, but she can get around and her
Yep.
parents are long gone and she's doing great for
Yeah,
herself.
for sure. So, what is it that when you wake up, your feet hit the floor? What is it that gives you the energy to absorb this world that can be heavy, can be very heavy, no matter, and then to take care of your soul, take care of your child, take care of all these clients? What is that for you every day that makes you and hopeful?
I think it changed over the last 10 years because I started this company to make sure my daughter had what she needed.
Yeah.
I couldn't find therapy for her that would take her over 7 years old. All these ABA therapy companies only take kids up to 6. So literally, I just did this as a little side hustle, a little tax write-off type of thing to treat her. And then it started feeling really good to help
Yeah.
other kids just as much as to help mine. So it morphed into this, well, I'm not just helping her. I'm going to help all these kids. It's an injustice that they have to wait the way that I did. I'm empathetic to them. And then when the franchising started, it changed again, where I'm not helping change just kids' lives and their families' lives, but the entrepreneurs that start these clinics. They find their purpose in life. They find financial security for their own families. They now have work life balance so they can be parents, but still have the ability to make just as much money and to help kids themselves.
Yeah.
So it's morphed. And I absolutely love that we've come full circle because one person really can't make a difference in a big world. It's
Right.
going to have to be a group of people making that change together with the same goals in mind. And I think franchising a business really accomplishes that mission.
So, of everything that you've accomplished up to this point, what are you the proudest of?
I think I'm the most proud of Well, we're the first franchise in existence, right? So I was very proud of leading this change in an industry that was kind of stagnant for a minute. But what I look forward to is, because we're the first franchise, because we're the biggest franchise, I want to set a standard.
Yeah.
And I want that standard to be high, because most ABA companies are owned by private equity that are very profit driven, and they don't care about the quality of things. They're just numbers people, because their investors need their returns or they'll shut down.
Yeah.
Being a franchise, owner operated, a fourth of our franchisees are autism parents. We're not profit driven. Profit is nice and all,
Right.
but we're very quality driven. We're very mission driven. And I hope that what we accomplish is not only to provide access of care to kids, but to force these other companies to meet our standards,
Yeah.
to set an expectation that parents ask of them too, because they learned about it through our company. So hopefully we'll raise the bar a little bit on quality of care for the kids.
The one thing too about being a parent and being in this community, this autism spectrum community, is that you absolutely see the world in a different way. Like, I'm
Oh, yeah.
always totally grateful that Miles has shown me the side of the world that I may not have known otherwise. And my question to you is this: what have you discovered about being a human being on this planet that you didn't realize before you met your stepdaughter?
She definitely views the world through a different lens.
Yeah.
And I would not be the person I am today were it not for her. She changed me. Being a parent changed me, but her perspective is so different. I recently wrote a book, and and one of the stories that I talk about in there is how hard I pushed to make the world different for her, because she wasn't getting invited to birthday parties because the other kids thought she was weird and didn't like her. And I literally like threatened a parent's life in a school parking lot because she didn't get a birthday invitation. And I told that woman what a piece of poo she was, and great job, you're mother of the year. You're teaching your kid to be non-accepting of kids different than you. And I threw a fit because I wanted the world to invite her to those parties because that's what mattered to me.
Yeah.
And then I turn around to my stepdaughter and she goes, I don't even like birthday parties. They make me anxious. I'm like, what am I doing? So
Yep.
it's what I valued and what I thought of as nostalgic childhood to me does not matter at all
Yep.
to her. So I
Yep.
had to change my perspective and be like, what actually matters? What's going to make her happy is not what made me happy.
100%.
It was
That
cool.
I totally get that. My son's going to graduate. He's going to 21, and I really thought that he wanted the whole graduation walk, the whole big thing. And I was kind of rearranging plans because he'll graduate technically here in December, early December. And I made all these plans, and then I sat down with him. I was like, "Is that cool? Because we've waited for so long. Do you want this?" Because he's kind of into sports and the whole like loud celebratory. He was like, "No, I just want something that's, just like at the school or whatever." So I had to reverse everything, and you got to listen to him because, yeah, you think
Yeah,
in your idyllic notion of how life works, this makes sense, but you really have to reverse the car and go back to where they're at.
yeah, exactly right. And it's never what you think.
I know. It never. It's like that's the one thing about COVID. It's like I felt like I was living that all the way up until that point. Like whenever I'd really talk to people about it and think about it, every single day you pivot in all these different ways and no one will have any idea. The rest of the world looks in, they have all of their, idyllic notions and ideological notions of how you're supposed to live your life, but it's like you finally, I think as adults get to a point where it's like it really doesn't matter what you think. This is the way it's going to happen. This is
Yeah.
how life is happening for me. You can do you, but this is, because there's so many changes and you just can't rely on any one thing.
No, you really can't. You can't meet that Hollywood milestone expectation.
No.
The life celebrations that mean so much in your past is totally nonsense to them. It's
Yep.
incredible.
Yeah, it certainly is. So let me ask you this, Nichole. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone you work with, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm just one person and I'm just doing a job. I'm not anybody fancy. I pay a mortgage. I drive a regular car. I don't vacation because I'm too busy with work and I can't get vacation days. Like I'm just a normal person. I
Yeah.
really have imposter syndrome. When people ask me, "Oh, how did you start this franchise by yourself when you were a 28-year-old female?" I'm like, I can't believe I actually did that. Like
Yeah.
I was just taking one step at a time. I didn't see the big picture. I didn't expect it to be this successful and this huge and grow this fast. I was just putting one foot in front of the other and just looked behind me and saw where I had gone.
Yeah,
So if I don't think I'm anybody to praise or to throw a party for, but I do think that the work that we do is impactful. And I
absolutely.
do think that I have gained so much fulfillment by helping others than I ever could have in nuclear medicine or whatever my previous life had planned for myself.
Sure, sure.
I'm glad I ended up where I am.
That's wonderful. So if anyone wants to learn more, hire you, any of the other good business, anything that you're doing, your book, where's the best place to go?
You can find our website, sosfranchising.com. We have all kinds of information about ABA therapy. We have all kinds of information about opening your own clinic. And of course, you can have links to my LinkedIn and podcasts and all the books and things. But I do have a special offer for you guys today. If you're looking to make a difference in the world, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur and you're excited about making a difference, you want fulfillment, you want a business that means something, not just serving pizza, but changing lives, if you call us or contact us on sosfranchising.com and you say that you heard about us on Joe's podcast, we want to offer you a free round trip domestic Southwest Airlines flight to Houston to spend a day with me. We call it Discovery Day. You get to actually view the clinics, tour them, look around, see it with your own eyes. And if it fits with your lifestyle, fantastic. You can join the cause, join the mission, and make a difference in kids' lives.
Wow, that's so wonderful. I'm so glad that I've had the chance to be in this world for a little while to talk to you about it. I will shout it from the mountaintops. Thank you so much. Thank you for what you're doing. And it really is. It's like all of the boats will rise with all of us, doing our part to help get the word out and to do things. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well said. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.